Hello, I'm Lawrence Calcano, the Chairman and CEO of iCapital, and welcome to the 19th hole, a casual conversation inspired by the connections we make after a great game of golf and the things we learn about human nature, success, failure, and what it takes to lead with purpose and impact. My guest today, Jack Nicklaus, an individual who has left an indelible mark on the world of golf, earning a place as one of the sport's most legendary figures, and has also made a significant positive impact on the lives of millions of others. In addition to his record 18 major championships, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005, the Congressional Gold Medal in 2015, and star number 41 on the Flag for Hope, in recognition of his exceptional PGA career and the philanthropic efforts assisting children in need through the Nicklaus Children Healthcare Foundation. His impact transcends fairways and greens, and we are so thrilled to have the chance to sit down with Jack in his office. Well, Jack, thank you so much for being with us today and for hosting us in your beautiful office here in Florida. Really, really appreciate it.
Pleasure, Larry.
So as you think about your incredible career, is there any event or events that stand out? The U.S. Amateur you won at 19, the 1962 U.S. Open you won, the Masters you won at 46 years old in 1986 with Jackie in the bag. Any of those events stand out among the others?
Well, they all stand out. I think it was kind of a progression, and I think that's what life is. You got to learn how to walk before you run. I sort of got to golf by process of elimination. Played all sports and did them all fairly well, but each one had its drawback to me except for golf, because golf is one sport that I could go do by myself. I won, a lot of kids tournaments. When I was 18, I won the Trans-Miss, which was a big amateur tournament in those days, and that propelled me into the Walker Cup. All of a sudden, I became what I thought, Walker Cup. I must be one of the 10 best amateurs in the country.
Yep.
Played the Walker Cup that year. I was 19 years old. At the end of the year, I won the U.S. Amateur and was ranked #1 amateur. And I said, maybe I'm better at this game than I thought. Then the next year, I finished second in the U.S. Open to Arnold Palmer at Cherry Hills. And I said, I can play with these guys. So each time I had a progression of being able to bite off a little bit more. Then I won the U.S. Amateur again the next year, and I really didn't have anything more to do as an amateur. Bobby Jones wrote me a letter and encouraged me to stay amateur, but I really wanted to be the best I could be in what I was doing. And so if you want to be the best you can be, you got to compete against the best.
Yep.
And I don't care in what walk of life or what business you're in. If you're going to compete, you can't just run over people. You got to find somebody up here that you could beat. So anyway, I turned pro when I was 21, 17 tournaments before I won the U.S. Open, but still pretty fast. Each time I had 3 seconds in there, and each time I learned something, learned why I did this, why I didn't succeed, or why I did succeed. And I think that's what life's all about.
Yep.
And so it's learning and growing with you, and I kept adding to what I was doing. And at the same time, I had a family. As you have a growing family and you have a growing business, and not only did I play golf, but I built a business at the same time. It was a fun experience, and one I wouldn't trade for anything.
Yeah. Another important thing in professional golf, almost by definition, golfers lose a lot more than they actually win. And so every week you have to come back. What's that like? How do you keep yourself sharp?
Well, if you win 15-20% of the time, you're the best there is.
Absolutely, yep.
That's pretty good, but you obviously want to win more. Winning breeds winning. And it's just like in business, success breeds success. And so you're always looking for that next challenge. And you try to learn from your losses. I remember I lost the U.S. Open in 1960 when I was an amateur. I was 20 years old to Arnold. But I shot 39 the last 9 holes. And I needed to shoot 1 over par 36 the last 9 holes to win the golf tournament. Well, I told Arnold, I said, Palmer, if I'd ever shot 39 the last 9 holes, nobody'd ever heard of you. And then he says, yeah, and if I had 3-putted 7 times at Oakmont, nobody ever heard of you either. So we had a lot of jokes back and forth about that. But that's what we were both that way. We were both competitive. Both wanted to win. But I think if I had won at Cherry Hills in the 1960s at Amateur, I've been scratching my ears out here like this, and I'm not sure that I would have gotten better.
Yep.
I would have jumped a progression faster than I should have gotten there.
So you mentioned Arnold, and obviously a very special relationship. What was it like having him and maybe Gary Player as inspirations to keep you at the top of your game?
Well, you know, Gary and I were closer to age than Arnold. Gary and I became friends, and he's probably still the closest friend I've got today. Although Arnold and I became very close friends, and our family, Arnold and I, and Winnie and Barbara, we spent a lot of time. We played bridge a lot together. We traveled together. Arnold used to come pick me up in his airplane. We used to go play exhibitions together. And Arnold, he was 10 years older than I, and he took me under his wing. And he didn't have to do that, but he did. And I'll never forget that. He was really kind to me. And, you know, I mean, I had to fight his gallery. Everybody had to fight Arnie's army, but I never had to fight Arnold.
Yep.
Because he was a good guy, and he and I had a lot of fun together, and we competed, and we'd go out on the golf course, try to beat each other's brains out. We'd finish, we'd shake hands and say, hey, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? You know, that was our relationship.
That's great. So you won the US Open in '67, and then didn't win a major until St. Andrews, the Open Championship in '70. I'm wondering, did you think of that as maybe a rut? Did you have periods in your career when you just weren't there, and how did you overcome that?
My father passed away in 1970, and far too young, 56 years old. My dad lived for me, and I look back on it, I said, you know, I'm not sure I gave him a fair shake. So I should have worked harder. While he was here, you know, he would have gotten great pleasure out of that. And I you know, I got a little lax. I knew I still played, I still won, I still made plenty of money and so forth and on for the tour. But, you know, I didn't really get after it.
Yeah.
And so in 1970, I sort of rededicated myself. I don't know that I didn't turn around and say I'm going to rededicate myself. I just did.
Yep.
And then I won at St. Andrews in '70. From then on, I started winning again, and I started winning quite a few tournaments or majors through that next 5-6 years.
Maybe 7 majors between '70 and '75. It was a great run, and
Yeah.
I'm sure your dad is proud beyond proud could possibly be. So maybe it's a good segue into sort of life and balance. You know, when you're successful, certainly as successful as you've been, the call on your time is immense. The work you have to put into your craft is incredible. And you've had a wonderful wife of 63 years. You have 5 kids. You have 24 grandchildren. Were you able to keep balance in your life? Is balance even possible for somebody who's so successful?
Well, if you're married to a gal like Barbara, you know, you're pretty. Not many guys find a partner like that. Barbara supported me for about 40 years with everything I did with golf course, or playing golf and golf course design.
So recently you visited the first course you designed in 1969, Harbortown Golf Links.
Oh my gosh, yes I did.
And so I've just got to share something personal. I proposed to my wife on the 18th green at Harbortown.
Did you?
Yes, and 3 years later on the same spot, she announced to me that she was expecting our first child. So it was a very moving thing for us.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was so excited to learn that that was your first course. But on the golf course design, you've had an incredibly successful career there. You're still very much in demand. I understand you've just done a beautiful redesign of the Bears Club, and the work continues. How do you stay so creative? You look at a piece of ground, how do you see the different things that are relevant to that course, that spot of the earth?
I don't know. I mean, I never thought I could take a pencil and complete a circle when I start drawing. I've gotten a little bit better at it. My drawings aren't great, but people understand them. I just redid the Bears Club, but I was out there almost every day, or maybe even a lot of times, probably most of the days, twice a day, go out in the morning, give them some work, come back, I'd draw something, and then they'd give it to one of the bulldozer operators, they call shapers, and they would shape it. We did no plans for the golf course. I can't do that with every golf course because I'm not there.
Yeah.
But you know, it was fun to me to be able to look at something And I don't know why I have the ability to have like, I look out and I have like a blank canvas, and all of a sudden I can draw my golf hole on it. And I can build it that way. I suppose it's the same way I played golf, because I played golf by visualizing what I wanted to do. And I'd get out of the fairway and I'd look at this shot, maybe 175 yards, bunker short right, pin stuck in a little bit behind it, the green sort of worked its way a little bit left to right, so it's called for me to play it into the left side of the green with a little bit of a fade, let the ball trickle its way down towards the hole. I mean, I designed the same way I would have played.
Yep.
And so, you know, when I was playing, I would make that in mind, that I just make my body do what I wanted it to do to hit the golf ball that way. And so you just take that and transfer that to a piece of paper or to a shaper, and we end up with a golf course. It's fun. It's creation. Something that's going to be here long beyond my lifetime and certainly my golf game of my life.
Yeah. Were there any new skills you had to develop to succeed at golf course design?
Charles Fraser at Harbortown came to me. So I talked to Charles, and Charles said, "I'd like to have you do this golf course for me." I said, "Charles, I wouldn't have a clue how to do a golf course. I have no idea how to start or finish." He says, "Well," he says, I said, "but I got a fellow who wants me to consult with him, a fellow named Pete Dye." He says, "Never heard of him." And they hadn't heard of Pete at that time. Pete was just a young guy. And so Pete and I went down there. I made 23 trips into Harbortown, had a blast. About May, they told us that they were going to have a tournament. They made the Heritage Golf Tournament. We had a 6,650-yard golf course, and he's going to have a pro tournament there in Thanksgiving. Okay. You know, I mean, progression went. Anyway, it turned out, and the course still stands up today.
Yep.
I mean, it's a wonderful little golf course.
Great track, yes.
And then I started Muirfield, and I started with Pete, and Pete never really got involved with it, but I needed somebody who knew how to tie the real estate and the golf course together, because we were doing a development as it relates to Muirfield Village. And so I found Desmond Muirhead. Started with 150 acres, added 100 acres, then we added 1,100 and some acres. So I ended up with about 1,560 acres, something like that. When we started doing it, I said, you know, I'm really interested in the golf course. These guys were interested in the development. I said, why don't we do it this way, guys? I'll take the golf course. You could have the development. I could care less about the development. I said, the first thing I want to do with Muirfield is I don't want to make a dime. I said, my whole sole goal here is, if I'm going to bring all my fellow pros in here, I don't want them to think that I'm sitting here making a lot of money off of them coming to Columbus. So I structured Muirfield so I couldn't make any money. Because of that, Muirfield's been my greatest tool. And Muirfield was the first golf course done from inception for tournaments that created gallery amphitheaters, which they now call stadiums. And I did that, and then I did Glen Abbey, which is exactly the same.
You know, you mentioned Muirfield, and it reminds me of something else, because you've done some special things, particularly at the beginning. You've done a lot, and it's personally been very inspirational to me to think about how you've worked to make golf a more inclusive game and create the opportunity for more people to have access to it. And it reminds me of the stories of when you started Muirfield. Can you talk a little bit about that?
All I want to do is make a contribution to the game of golf, bring something back to Columbus, Ohio, and show my fellow pros how I think that the game of golf should be played, and wanted them to enjoy and play it. First thing I did when I went to membership is, okay, you know, I'm not going to be one of these clubs that's going to say, okay, this is a stag club, or I'm going to exclude this, I'm going to exclude that. So I wanted to make sure that I created diversity. This is 1972.
It's unbelievable back then.
Nobody.
Yes, that philosophy of inclusion, I think, is going to help the game of golf for
I
years to come.
think it's fantastic.
So you wrote a letter a few years ago to your younger self, which is a pretty incredible letter. And the greatest piece of advice that you gave yourself, and I'm going to read it to get the quote correctly.
You're going to have to.
I'm going to have to. Well, it's for both of our recollection.
That's right.
And most of all, don't forget to give back. The game will give you so much, but what you give in return, that's how you want to be remembered. Trust me. How important has that been in your life?
Oh, they say it changed my life.
Yep.
It happened because of one person, Barbara. She had a good common sense, and that's basically what it is.
Yep.
It's common sense of what's right and what's wrong, and how can you help people to leave this place a better place than when you found it.
Yep. So one of the things you've obviously shared together is the Nicholas Children's Center. You guys have generated almost $200 million in funds for pediatric healthcare, which is incredible. What did it take to do that? What skills did you need to develop to be successful in driving that?
I don't think I need to develop any skills. I had to have Barbara. What happened was that the Honda tournament came to Palm Beach area. And a fellow named Fred Millsaps, who ran their charities, came to Barbara and me and said, what children's charities are in this area that we can support? We've always supported children. And I looked at Barbara and I said, do you want to go for it? And she said, absolutely. So we've been talking about a foundation, but this is when we went for it. As I was slowing down, this was Barbara's passion. And we had charity on the tour, but it was not a big deal back when we were playing. I mean, if you made $5,000 or $10,000 for charity during the week, that was it. Today they raise several $1 million a week. And so all of a sudden charity became a big part, and I got involved in supporting Barbara. And I found out how much fun it was and how rewarding it was. It just changed my life. We have, I'm not sure how many outpatients, I think like 24 outpatient clinics, plus the main campus in Miami now. You go down to the hospital and we see these kids and we see what has happened and we see where this money and how it goes to support things. It wasn't a real magic on my part. I had the ability to open doors. We had to earn our way to start with.
Yep.
And once we earned our way, people followed us. And they're continuing to follow us, and it's following us in greater numbers every year. And it's so rewarding, and it's so neat to see what happens. It's unbelievable.
It's almost a little like you passed the torch from being in the center of the ring as the golfer to now partnering with Barbara, and Barbara playing a leadership role.
Oh, it's
in some of
fantastic,
this.
yeah. She's been such a great influence on everything. I run everything by her. I did what I was playing. People thought I was winning golf tournaments. Actually, I was her alter ego out there playing.
So I have one more question for you, Jack. I have a personal philosophy in life that it's the simple things that really make the difference in success. And I think a lot of what we need to know as business people or as people generally are the things that our parents taught us when we were 5. Say please, say thank you, share, appreciate. And I think that's been an important guidepost in my life. Do you have a simplifying philosophy in your life that guides you?
Barbara and I have had a very successful marriage, and I think our philosophy of marriage has always been 95% give and 5% take. And if you do something like that, you'll blend out where it should be.
Yep.
But if you think that way, to make sure that the other person is taken care of properly, that's what we try to do. But I don't think business is any different.
It's not.
It's not. You treat people the way you'd like to be treated. You handle them politely. You do things the right way, and pretty soon things will happen the right way for you too.
Well, that's a great message to end on. 95% give, 5% take. Jack, this has been an incredible conversation. I feel honored to have spent the time with you. Thank you so
Thanks,
very
Lawrence.
much.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thank you.
I want to thank Jack Nicklaus again for sharing his time and personal journey with us. The lessons of perseverance, partnership, and inclusion are ones we can all find inspiring. And thank you for joining me at the 19th hole.